Hi, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards, and I'm a creative from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Today, I wanted to share some aspects of my creative personality because I realized that even though people are generally fascinated by creativity, most of us don't understand what creativity is really about. And there are all kinds of kind of fantastical things that people say about creativity that may sound nice but may not necessarily be grounded in reality. So I wanted to share from my experience what creativity is all about. I don't know, somebody else who is creative in a different way may have different elements that they would talk about, but I think the ones that I share here are typically would typically be something you would see across the board with most creatives, at least in the field of the arts. Anyway, I should let you know that I am a poet, artist, author, and I'm also a linguist. I speak several different languages. I speak Spanish, French, Mandarin, Chinese, and bits and pieces of other languages. I speak intermediate level German. And so I love language. I love to play with words and so on. And everything that I do really ties into each other. I have a whole ecosystem of talents that really kind of have a lovely interplay uh, between them, right? So, anyway, my creative personality, I believe that these are the things that actually help to make me more creative. First of all, I'm very playful. I've always been playful. When I was a little girl, my parents, my mom in particular, told me that my dad used to say that my middle name should have been Play because all I wanted to do was play. As a matter of fact, apparently, I used to complain about homework and say that children shouldn't have been given homework. We should have been allowed to play. So, playfulness is a big part of creativity because play is all about exploration, the joy of exploration, not some dry clinical testing and experimentation, but joyful exploration is a big part of creativity. Also, I'm very curious. I'm curious about a lot of things. For example, I love ants. So, like here where I live, I tend to leave sometimes little bits of food and different things, sometimes sweet, sometimes savory, on the counters just to see how the ants are gonna respond to them. It's very interesting to observe ants. You should try it sometime and see what you learn. Every time I look at ants, I feel like I learn something new. So yes, I'm very curious, and this is something that feeds into creativity. I'm also very childlike. And, typically we associate creativity with kids, even though sometimes I think people have a contemptuous view of kids at times. You think, oh, okay, just some little kiddie thing. I know, for example, at sometime when I was doing some corporate training with a company, with some executives, one of the executives said something kind of contemptuous about my art. She said, oh, that's just some little graphic arts thing she doing there. He was very contemptuous, but I think it was coming from a place of envy, to be honest. Like he secretly wished that he could do what I could do. But anyway, there tends to be this contempt for things that are simple. We typically associate simplicity with children, naivete with children, but children are very complex little creatures, right? So when I say that I'm childlike, what I mean is my innocence, my fresh view of things, the way I question things, the truth with which I depict things, all feed into my creativity. Okay. Also, I'm truth loving. I love the truth. And this is why I love God. God is truth. God is full of truth. God is only truth. He's nothing but truth. So I love truth. And I think this helps with my creativity because as somebody who loves the truth, I believe in depicting things truthfully. And this is something that speaks to the soul, right? So, yes, truth loving is a big part of my creative personality. I'm also very detail oriented. Um, Sometimes I would scrap whole pieces of art when I'm maybe 80% done because I make a minor mistake that I feel I can't live with. When I look at my PowerPoint presentations, or yes, I still use PowerPoint, or if I make a video or something and something is just a little off, maybe the text isn't placed right, or I don't know, this the way I position like, okay, the lady on the screen, if the flowers in her hair were just a little off, that those kinds of things bother me. So I am very detail oriented, and so that's a big part of my creative personality. You do have to be detail oriented to be creative, because every little detail does matter. I mean, you don't always have to be exacting about everything, but it is important to be detail oriented. Um, as a creative, I hate copycatting. I've always been that way. I don't like copycatting, at least not outright copycatting and then plastering my name all over that. No, that does not make me feel creative. I don't like it. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that keeps a lot of people back, that separates a lot of people from their creative inner child. Copycatting is a lazy way of being creative, and it's not even really creative, because to be creative you need to produce something original. And if you're copycatting, if you're just, copying and pasting text and calling it your own, or taking somebody's artistic idea and, just making a few minor changes and saying that that's your own, that's not creative, right? So not copycatting is a big part of my creative personality. Walking with God is a big part of my creative personality, because my conversations with my bestie, that's what I call God, my bestie, capital B bestie. Um, my conversations with God, his input into my creative process, all of those things help me to be more creative. And who better to get creative ideas from than the one who created this wonderful, beautiful, exquisite universe that we live in? Also, a big part of my creative nature is saying no to peer pressure. When I was in high school, I had no idea that peer pressure was a thing, to be honest. If you came to me and said, hey, Nika, you ever heard about peer pressure? I'd be like, seriously, that's a thing? I had no idea, because peer pressure was never an issue for me. You might find that odd, like, don't all adolescents have a problem with peer pressure? No, not all adolescents. Maybe there are a rare few who don't have a problem with peer pressure. I happen to be one of them. That's just how God designed me. So saying no to peer pressure is the thing that, helps me to be creative. Because what does peer pressure do? It cookie cutters us. It cookie cutters our identity, where, such that we feel to be accepted, to be acceptable, we must conform um, to a particular replicated identity. That does not feed into creativity, because creativity is all about originality. And we need to be at peace and at home with who we uniquely are to be creative. If you're always busy wondering, oh my gosh, should I be like this person? Should I be like that person? Oh my gosh, if I'm not wearing this particular brand of shoe, if I'm not if I'm not using this paint that they use, or if I don't believe that, you understand, the anxiety that comes with peer pressure is not conducive to creativity. The need to conformity and creativity can't mix. So the fact that I, don't particularly subscribe to peer pressure is a big part of my creative nature. Also, uh, my in terms of my personality, I'm very imaginative. You can see that in my poetry, you can see that in my art. I'm very imaginative, and of course, for obvious reasons, imagination is a big part of creativity. Finally, I'm very bohemian. I've got a very adventurous and playful kind of spirit, a very free spirited kind of nature. I'm very bohemian. Even my style of dress, the way I like to dress typically is bohemian. So I love being bohemian. There's something to me that's very romantic about being bohemian. I love bohemian. I love the quirky fashion, but it's very feminine to me. Bohemian fashion is very, if you're a lady, it's very feminine. For a guy, of course, bohemian fashion can be very masculine, but for me as a woman, I think bohemian fashion can be very beautiful, maybe on the flowery side sometimes, but definitely very artistic, which really fits in with my inner world. So I'm very, very bohemian. So these are just 10 quick things that explain what my creative personality is like, just in case it's helpful to anybody. If you develop some of these things, you may find that you become more creative. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more content like this or like the other things that I've shared on my channel, please subscribe. Until next time.